20 minutes would have been 1:30. I mean, I had to like pull up and circle the place and come back through it.
Well, glad to see my conference room is all on the move there. Peace out or peace in.
John, you're in two different places.
Huh?
You've got a screen of you and then another picture of you.
Yeah, you know, my note taker, just like everyone else's note takers, just shows up. So, and right now, okay, now Mark's face is turning into Mark. Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. You know, we live on an island here, as you know, so that means that people are probably just going to trickle in over the next few minutes. Start time, if I told them all 1:45, everyone would be here on time. So
perfect.
How things going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
You know what? We're having a lot of fun here. Before we get into the meat of this, one of the things. Well, okay, iPhone 46. You're on here twice apparently, because we're hearing some echo here. Anyhow, one of the things that when I started the TL role here in Marco Island, one of the things that the agents wanted to do was to get more involved in the community. So we came up with this idea called First Responder Friday. So the first Friday of every month, we do burgers and dogs and that sort of thing for the police and fire department and so on. Today, we kind of went overboard. It's Labor Day. It's a barbecue weekend. So we did brisket, which I will put up against anything from Kansas City or Texas.
No, I'm sad.
I will, but that's okay, you know.
Okay.
So we did 30 pounds of brisket and pulled pork, 40 hamburgers, 50 hot dogs, and a Nerf gun fight broke out in the middle of it. So,
well, y'all are having too much fun.
We are having a lot of fun, and there are a few people on the call today that you're going to get to see next week when you're down here at Masterminds. So, and thank you again for coming down to Florida on a.
Is that next week? Holy cow!
Yeah, next Friday, dude.
Oh my gosh! All right. Well, I'm gonna have to somehow get out of this heat because it's like Phoenix and hell had a baby in Austin, and it's pretty rough. So, this is why I am so glad I'm going to heaven according to my faith, because I can't stand this heat.
Yeah, well, okay, so coming to South Florida is not going to be a cure for that.
Yes, it is. It's not 115 there.
No, it was 95 and 85% humidity.
That's fine. I love that. Great.
Well, Mark, as always, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. You know, it's you got a lot on your plate, especially with everything changing the way that it's changing in markets across the country. What you're doing with KW Wealth, and I was kind of hoping to be able to touch on both of those during your time today. Is that fair?
Whatever you want. This time's for you. I'm just happy to be hanging out with you.
And we're certainly happy for that too. Now, I know there's a few people on here may not have had experience to hear or know of your journey. I mean, you and I have talked about it. Not everybody's had that opportunity. When did you join Keller Williams? Like 2007,
2001.
2001. Okay. Okay. So you did have a good run up before things headed south.
I did, and I was a top agent in my market. I was number 67 in the country when the market turned down. I still almost went bankrupt. So it's my warning to everybody. No matter how well you might be doing, you can always your own stupidity can always get you in trouble, as I've learned firsthand.
So you started out in the business and you hit 67 in the country in a few short years, and then the market changed, and a little bit. However, you stuck with it.
Bye.
Good
luck. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, stuck with it, and you know, it's funny. There were two reasons I didn't file bankruptcy, and the short version is, you know, there's no one more dangerous than males in their 20s, especially when they have a little success behind them. Because I started investing in real estate, and there wasn't a deal I didn't like that made sense mathematically. So I had properties all over the country I'd never seen. I had all kinds of fun things, and just too fast, too loose, that kind of stuff. And the two reasons I didn't file bankruptcy: one is my Southern Baptist grandfather, who said, son, we don't do that. We borrow money, we pay it back. And the other was, at the time, if you file bankruptcy, it was you potential to lose your Keller Williams franchise, which I had just earned my way into owning. And so I did everything in my power not to file bankruptcy.
Okay. So yeah, that's a good plan to avoid there.
Yeah.
And so you said you just got your franchise. So you were the OP at that point?
I was the OP. Yep.
Okay. You've been a team leader also, right?
I was team leader for 17 years. Off and
Okay.
on. So yeah.
Did you hire yourself? I mean, were you someone else's team leader, or did you hire yourself as a team leader?
So the short version is my former business partner went to prison. This is such a great story. No, it was forging checks. And I, all of a sudden, let me back up. This is a terrible story. And it's being recorded, so we have to get it factually accurate.
Would you like me to stop recording?
No, it's fine. I'm an open book, but no, here's the short version is, we were a mess in our market center in those days. That market center was launched with, I think, 7 agents, completely out of model and that sort of thing. And as I was working up as an agent, I became the top agent in my market center. And one day I was walking out to a listing appointment, and my OP came to me and said, "Hey, someone canceled on teaching a class. Would you teach a class?" And I said, "I can't. I'm going on a listing appointment." And I stopped in the parking lot and I said, "You know what? I'd rather go teach a class than go earn another," at the time, $5,000 commission. And I realized I had a problem at the time. I liked people and long-term relationships way more than I liked selling houses. And so while I was fairly good at it, I worked myself into it being a good listing agent. I was never a good buyer's agent, didn't have the patience for it. But when I found myself canceling listing appointments to go teach a class for free in the market center, I knew I had some issues. And so what I realized about myself at the time was, what made me a great listing agent was lowest days on market, lowest hassle, highest amount of money, that kind of stuff. But it also meant I had 30-day relationships, because I didn't follow up well. Didn't have the systems in place, that sort of thing. But if I helped other people do what I thought was so easy to do, I could influence a lot more people and build long-term relationships. And I still have relationships from those days to this day. And I'm very happy that I made that choice.
Awesome.
So anyway, I became team leader quickly. OP suddenly went away, and that was a whole mess. And the region came to me and said, "Hey, would you like to be the OP of this market center?" And I said, I don't know what that means, but sure. And that one thing led to another. And so I sold real estate while being the team leader, while being the OP, completely out of model, and made every mistake you can make in this model, which maybe uniquely qualifies me to be in the role I'm in today.
And you've had a couple other things along the way. However, one of them was not MCA.
I've transmitted one time in my entire career, and I almost broke the system. I got a call from Mo Anderson, and at the time, and the call went, "Darlin, if you don't transmit, our entire profit share system can't work." And so you're holding back at the time we had 284 offices. And, if you don't transmit, 284 offices can't share the profit. And that would be a cultural problem for us. And I was like, "I'm on it, Mo." And so we did our best, and I finally got it transmitted, but I swore I would never do that again. I've had 10 different roles in the company, and I failed at every one of them until I didn't. The thing I love about this company is we've always empowered failure, because it's how we learn. And, if you're not moving fast enough, you're not failing. And that's kind of the thought process of my own journey and all the opportunities that I've had. And I would argue, I tend to say I've been given a lot of opportunities, and anyone who was around me at that time will tell you that I earned my way into those opportunities and failed my way forward and did those things. But I wouldn't be here without a lot of people believing there was something worth coaching in me. And so I love that about this company.
We see that a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously you're one of the more prevalent examples, but I'm pretty certain everybody on this call has experienced that at some level, some way, shape, or form, which is, and Mark, maybe you could help me with something, is how do I tell that story to agents that aren't with Keller Williams?
I'm looking at Michael's boat real quick. Hang on one second. That is pretty. I want to come hang out with you. So Here's
Soon as
the
you come to Marco, you get a free ride. So
Hey, I'm in. I love it. I will come hang out with you. No, here's the thing I would tell you, and we joke about this, but it's deadly accurate. And that is if you're talented and you follow our model and system, because we're seeing a lot of this right now, John, and that is, I'm too smart for this model. I'm going to do it my own way. And from an agent perspective, we embrace that. We are where entrepreneurs thrive, and we've seen some amazing things happen. From a market center perspective, there are very specific systems and models that matter. We have our 25-point economic fundamentals, et cetera. So we'll joke about this and say, look, if you are talented, we will find you and we will throw work at you and money at you, because what I've been told my entire career, and I was joking with Mark Willis about this, but he used to say to me all the time, we have more opportunities than we have talent to fill them. And I used to be like, hey, what about me? I want opportunities. Like, what about me? What about me? And my nickname for so long with my inner circle was Easter, because I was passed over for more opportunity in this company than anybody I knew of at the time, right? But what I kind of learned throughout the process, and what I now know on the other side, is we still have more opportunity than we have qualified talent to fill it. And what does that mean? That just means that we have a belief system here. There is a reason, and I will tell you, if you haven't been a MAPS coach or a team leader or an OP or a regional director or it's really difficult to understand how KWI operates. We are a very unique system and model, and there's a lot of nuance. There's a reason behind the reason for everything that we do. So now I kind of get what they were talking about at that time is, this is a company that rewards growing where you're planted. It rewards failing your way forward. It rewards people who dig into our systems and model and live our culture, which includes, things like I stopped cursing about 15 years ago because of this company. Just a weird thing. And that you might say, wow, it sounds like a cult, and maybe it is. But at the time, I didn't, I had a very good conversation with a leader I respected, who said, you're way too talented and professional to talk that way. And I said, okay, duly noted. And so, and I was never a bad cursor, but I just might throw in something for effect every now and then. I decided that's not in my own best interest, and it's not getting me where I want to go. And so just silly things like that along the way you grow through. And again, I have made so many mistakes, and my foot and my mouth are the same size for a reason. And I love this company for embracing that. And, I would empower everyone that our model is always evolving. While we do have a very specific model, there is a way to plus it, but you got to start the plussing from running it to the letter. If that makes sense.
It does. Awesome. But before going to my next questions, anyone have any questions for Mark up to this point? This is interactive, guys. And I know you all talk, because I talk to almost every single one of you at least once a week, if not 3 times a week. So, nothing? All right. So, Mark,
stop making eye contact. Hang on. I see Cameron on the phone. I see Katie Marco. Hi, Katie Marco. Hi. How are you?
They're paying attention.
It's Friday before a holiday weekend, so we're a little.
I actually got a photo with you.
I know.
Reunion this year. Yeah.
I remember. I love it, and I love seeing you. And I love look at all the people that have got their cameras off. They're hiding. They're like
they are hiding. I mean, Heather was on. I saw her earlier.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a hassle to turn your camera on.
Okay, there you go. You guilted Ann into it.
And hi. That's what we do around here. Let me do this. Kate, can you put up the opportunity map? I just want to show you this, John. I don't know if you've seen this.
Let's see the new one, because my VA just sent me the opportunity map today as a reminder, because that's one of our social media posts launching next week.
Oh, so I don't even know if this is the new one. This is just the one we were gonna share with you. But for those of you who don't know,
yeah, hang on. I need to give her some cool things, because this is my screen, so I gotta give her the go ahead. Go ahead, Kate. You're good.
And for those of you who don't know, John and I go way back, all the way till last year, hanging out in Florida together. So so this is just an example of the opportunity map. It gets much bigger than this. But when I look at this, I look at my own career. I look at the different things that I've been involved in and been able to do. And I started as an agent, built a mega agent team, started to build my profit share. I never went the expansion route. I went the market center investor and then ultimately team leader, OP, all of those roles. I was a MAPS coach, led leadership coaching for a long time. So my business ADD fit really well with this ecosystem. And the thing that people sometimes forget is there was no MAPS when I started with this company. There was no, all the things we see today didn't exist back then. So I don't know what's going to exist 10 years from now. But what I do know is if you're growing where you're planted, if you're building a database, if you're a successful realtor, if you are a successful market center operator, the sky is the limit for what's available to you. And so I just wanted to kind of reiterate that if we could.
And this is if you guys haven't seen this, Kirby, would you make sure that everybody on the call gets a copy of it? Because this is something that you really, honestly, guys, I have this on my desk. I keep it with me at home, and I kind of look at it and say, all right, what does this mean? Is there something I'm missing? And everybody here knows that I've gone through a number of different things in here, up to team leader and MAPS coach now. I honestly can tell you I don't have the aspiration for Marc's job. Because you
what? I've got the seat ready for you. What are you doing?
Those are big shoes to fill, my friend, and that's I'll be content with Marc's right hand at some point. So so anyhow, now Marc, you came to more national prominence, if you will, about 3.5 years ago, right after family reunion. Something happened in spring of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, they renamed the Keller crud that everyone came home with at family reunion to COVID.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what was that like?
Time. Here's what's fascinating is I've kind of been around the locker room, if you will, for a long time, meaning I was always either a KWU instructor, a MAPS coach. I was in Austin once a month for 20 years. So I've been around the ecosystem a long time. And one of my favorite things to do, I think of this company as Disneyland for real estate agents. And so I'd love to come to KWI and everybody's so great and, and just walk the halls and say hi to all my friends and do all those things. It has been such an interesting, if I walked you through, let's just do this. And it's Friday afternoon before a holiday. John, this is high level stuff right here. Not everybody gets this, but for my family and Marco, we're going to do this. So this is my EA Kate. She's on the call, and there's Jen Lewis, director of team leader community. This is outside my office. These are all the empty cubicles. And if we're lucky, yep, there's Jason Abrams right there.
What's up, Jace?
And so the good news about
and you guys really are right next door to each other. I thought it was a joke.
There's also a cutout of Jason, so we have multiple reminders. But and then we got worldwide over here. We got accounting, we got finance, we got legal, we got all these fun things. And this is about half of our space. But you'll notice the theme, and that theme is for the 3.5 years, there have been very few people in our 40,000 square foot space. And so that's created a unique challenge for us because I love just getting things done quickly, like you would in a market center. And I can just walk down the hall and talk to somebody. Sorry for making you busy. Here's a really cool, we even put a ping pong table in to try and get people to come back to the office more often. And the challenge is, as a leader, as you know, John, if no one's in the office, you can't do your 15-minute manage by walking around, make people feel good, give high fives, smile at people. If I need something done, I have to call someone, I have to Zoom them. They have this thing called Slack, which I am a one-man opposition to and refuse to use. So when you think about some of the challenges that COVID's presented, it's more of a human to human interaction than anything else. So yeah, it's been a challenge. And I would argue COVID is probably not in the top 5 of the challenges we've faced in this industry since I've been here. And I if when we talk about legacies worth leaving, if that I want to be known for someday, it is getting to parity and causing social equity to happen in our industry. It's making sure that everybody knows that they're loved, and you know, that we somehow left this place better than we found it. And so you think about all the work we're doing on that. You think about the predictive analytics that we're working on in our tech department. You think about offering free real estate school to 90% of our market centers. You know, those are the things that I think will really we'll remember. But you know, COVID has caused so many challenges we couldn't have foreseen, and I think we've underestimated the mental toll this has taken. I can tell you some funny stories about, you know, we attempted to go back to this return to office idea, and there was a massive revolt here. So in a loving way. I mean, they're like, heck no, you know, and I think our whole world has gone to that. And so that becomes a real challenge from a corporate perspective. Now, the good news is when you know, all of the people here were trying to figure out how to operate in this new world, I said, it's really easy. Just go interview a market center. This is how market centers look, because 100% of the agents are not in the office all day, every day. In fact, if you have 10% of your agents in the office at any given point, you're doing well, other than team meetings and that sort of thing. So, you know, we understand how to run a hybrid model in the field better than anybody on the planet. And so aren't we lucky we have a bunch of team leaders around here now? When I came on as president, there were 2 people in the building who'd ever sold a house. And that was Jason Abrams and Gary Keller. And so if you think about that, how can 500 employees of McDonald's have never tasted a Big Mac? And so, you know, I walk around here and I say things like, if you're not helping an agent get one more listing, and you're not helping a market center get one more agent, then what you're working on doesn't matter as much as it could. And so lovingly, let's all get together. And I will tell you, this team has rallied like crazy. The tech team, the marketing team. I can give you 10 examples of where they're doing things that actually help. I don't know if you've noticed this, John, but we've sent out something like 10,000 agent referrals to market centers in the last 90 days that our marketing team found a glitch in our system, and everybody who'd go to kw.com and search for an office went into this black hole, and the marketing people figured it out, and now they're sending active leads. Like, there's so many things that KWI are doing right now that are actively affecting agents and market centers. I'm very proud of this team.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So, Mark, your other big thing that you've been doing a lot of, obviously, on a more of a giving back to the agents in a community standpoint, is through KW Wealth.
Yeah.
And there's a couple people on the call I know that are members of the community.
Hey.
There are people that are taking the 8 weeks to wealth class, myself included. There are people on here that have specific questions about different types of investing that could be more hands-off, if you will, less time and management involved. So you okay? We pivot a little bit to some of that, because
sure.
You got a GPS that says, hey, you want to grow a net worth of $50 million in 5 years here.
Yep.
Now, I don't know any other company that even has anything like that. Never mind. Here's a 1-page sheet on how to do it.
Yep.
So what got you started with that? Where did your passion for wealth building come from?
So I grew up really poor, and you know, no one in my family had gone to college. No one in my family had ever had any extra money. And I was raised in an environment where if you had extra money, you were to give it to the church because they were better stewards of it than you were. And I came to realize that wasn't exactly true. And so, and this is my own personal journey. So back in 2003, I was chasing around a man named Tony DeCello, who is, I regard as the best real estate coach of all time. And
he's probably the most prolific listing agent that has ever lived.
Yes. And so he wouldn't coach me. And if there's anything, I'm persistent, if nothing else. So I used to follow him around events. And finally, I cornered him in the men's restroom, and he couldn't get away. And I said, hey, will you coach me? And he said, no, I'm full. And I said, okay, then can you help me answer a few questions? And I would literally stalk him. And it sounds terrible. This is not the way I wanted the story to come out, but here we go. And so I finally got him on the phone. We've come to become very good friends, business partners, all kinds of fun things over the years. But he would probably describe me as a pest in the early days. And I said, you know, I'm kind of getting burnt out on this listing thing. I need something to recharge. And he said, well, I'm going to challenge you to have a big, audacious goal that has nothing to do with selling real estate. And I said, I got it. I'm going to help 10 families get passive, because I had learned how to get my passive income above my bills with things like profit share and real estate investing and dividend investing and other things. And so I studied that nonstop. And, but I knew I had time to help 10 families individually get there. And his response was, I expected him to say, cross it out and double it. That was his famous thing to do, to make you think bigger.
Yep.
But he basically said, I'm embarrassed to know you, Mark. I think you should do 100. And I said, I can't help 100 families. And so it made me change the way I thought about what I was going to do. And I started teaching wealth building in the market center, and no one showed up. And so, it's funny, I went to Mega Camp that year, and there was probably 500 people at Mega Camp, if that. It was very, very small. It was in a hotel banquet room. And it was Gary talking about leverage, listings, and leads. You may have heard of this. And in that meeting,
page 1 of the book.
in that meeting, he said, if you're not earning enough, if you're not happy with your profit share, you're not teaching it enough. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to go back to the market center. I'm going to create a flyer. And I went back to the market center, created a flyer, and held the class, and no one came. What I found was, if I called it wealth building instead of profit share, and I mixed in a little growth stock mutual funds and real estate investing, then I would get people to show up. And so that was 2003. Here we are 20 years later, and we just passed over. We've lost count, but we know of at least 400 families we've taken passive. And so that has been, again, if you think about, I'm turning 50 this year. So it's weird what happens, right? John, you'll be there in a decade or so. But what happens is you start to think about,
been there for a few years already, my friend.
You start to think about legacy and what have I done that's actually made a difference in this world, and how can I help more people? And my wife and I give a lot of money to charity. And so ironically, I give way more money today to the churches that I support than I ever did, coming up, because I've been able to build wealth and do different things so that I could give that extra money. And so I've got a different viewpoint on that. But long story short is, we found the amazing Brett Tanner, who is a prolific real estate investor. And, all those YouTube videos you see with people talking about real estate investing, he's actually done it.
Yep.
And so we built a community called KW Wealth around him. And so now we have my free Friday community, which is just fun, a lot of joking and a lot of, real life, basic financial information. It's on Facebook, which has been going on for 20 years, but we just took it online in 2019. Then we've got 8 Weeks to Wealth, which is kind of an entry point for paid coaching at a group session some of you are involved in. Then we've got a subscription plan for wealth for $199 a month, and there's a lot of cool masterminds with that. Then we have in-person workshops and all those good things. And it's all because, here's another fun story that I'll share with you now that I can share some of this stuff. When I came on to Austin, we were testing optionality. What does that mean? That's code for not violating the SEC, but looking at going public, looking at private, looking at all different sorts of things. And in that experiment, we had a lot of different executives from different fields, and we had a lot of studies done on the company and a lot of those type of things. And so I was so excited when I got here, because what I used to do in my market center is I used to draw on a big piece of paper and hang it up in the lobby. Everyone who works here will be a millionaire. And so I got here and I wrote, everyone who works here will be a millionaire. And I stuck it up in the hallway, and I was shocked at the reaction. The reaction was the opposite of what I faced. In a market center, everybody rallied behind it. Let's get together. Let's do this. We want to do this. Let's build a plan. Let's build a GPS. Let's talk about balance sheets. Let's talk about income statements. And here, there was such a corporate mindset at the time. And it was, it was almost rebuked as that's not possible. And, you're going to give people the wrong impressions and all those things. And so it was a shock to the system for me, quite honestly. Now, those people are not here anymore, and that's okay. But during that time, I was just shocked to see how this place had embraced what we actually do as a company versus what we embrace in the field. And so that's the reason for KW Wealth. And with that, we came up with a huge goal, and that is 100,000 millionaires in this company by 2025.
Okay.
And so everything we're doing is lining up the dominoes, you may have heard of this, so that by 2025, we have 100,000 people here who are millionaires. Now, to put that in perspective, Microsoft's created 14,000 millionaires. Our goal is to create 100,000. And so
we know where we are right now?
So we have anecdotal evidence about 30,000, but we are building, the tech team right now is building a net worth tracker for Command. And so we'll have a lot more insight into that, and we'll have a lot more understanding of that. We know how many people sell $1 million or make $1 million a year selling real estate. We have all that data. But of course, as you all know, what you make and what you're worth are two totally different things, and are almost not correlative. They are correlative over a certain income level, but almost not. I mean, if you make $50,000 a year, the 4 professions that lead to being a millionaire in our country would shock you. It's accountant, engineer, teacher, right? It's business person. It's not doctors, lawyers, all the things you would think. Now, there are close 5 and 6, but it's not the things that pay a lot of money. It's, teachers are the second largest group of millionaires in this country. Why is that? It's because, and I blame their union, but if any of you've been a teacher, in most states, you're giving 9% of your income to your retirement at a minimum, and you can give a lot more than that. And so over the course of your teaching career, that builds up to millions of dollars. And so when you think about income versus net worth, we all will make enough money to be wealthy in our lives. But how we treat the money as it comes into our lives will determine whether we are or not. And so that's kind of our passion around here and why we do what we do.
Love it. And while you're on that topic, I'm going to do a screen share, if I may, for something that you're going to look at and say, hey, that looks pretty familiar. And this was done by Adrian Sabatino. Remember Adrian, right?
I love Adrian.
Adrian's a good dude for sure.
He is a good dude. He's a wealth building dude. I'm interviewing.
He's a machine when it comes to this.
Yep.
All right. So this, he doesn't know I'm sharing this, but that's okay. He put his own little spin on the path of money. All right. So the left side is employee and self-employed.
Yeah. He added cash flow quadrant to this. This is good.
And then the right side being business owner and investor. Now he added on cash flow a percentage for taxes, which is not in the red book right now. Okay. So he added stuff for taxes, and then what's left over is where you have to invest. Your investment choices are active lending, passive owning, and then taking that money and spinning it back around, taking the returns back to the top. And always the returns on the investment always go back into the capital asset side, in the business and investing side, not the human capital side, spending it. And Adrian has taken this, and he probably 3, maybe 4 years ago, when he was the OP of the Naples Market Center, started carrying this around in his binder with him every day. Yeah. He'd wake up in the morning, he'd read it. So what do I have? Where's it going? And in 4 years, he took himself to the point, and he shares it with our market center whenever he's down there teaching. He says, I'm completely passive right now. He says, I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
All of my active income just goes back into the capital asset side of the equation. So the compounding effect of all of that is astronomical. So anyway, it's the theory and putting it to practice is amazing. Now, where do you find most people get hung up? Why they know it, they don't implement?
Can I just, I led this same discussion on wealth building this morning, but I think it's really important, and it'd take a little time, but I think it'd be a fun use of our time if you guys will indulge me for
Absolutely.
a second. I've again studied this. This is my passion in life, and I've studied this maybe more than I should have, and it might be a little bit of an illness for me, but I am convinced that there are 3 letters that keep us from being wealthy. It's really simple. And those 3 letters are ego. It's EGO. And so when you think about it, you know, if you've been on my wealth building calls, you'll see I'll draw 3 circles and I'll say money flows into your life, money flows out of your life, and how you treat that money will determine your wealth. And what we want to do is build passive income. We want to build portfolio income. We build all those things. And then I want you to gamify it. And so one of the ways that we gamify it, and the dreaded budget word comes out in this conversation, but you know, I have so many stats and studies that most Americans don't have a budget and refuse to live on one. And on average, the average American underestimates what they spend each month by $1,240. And so when you think about those numbers, I can give you all the reasons why ego matters, but we spend so much money. I'm going to share a study with you. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's play a game, shall we?
Yep.
So here's, and I can give you all the examples of cars and watches and clothing and all the things that we buy and spend money on to impress others, to pretend like we're wealthy. And unfortunately, we live in a society that social media has amped up dramatically, where we see the Kardashians driving a Rolls Royce and we assume that everyone else has it better than we do. And we have this bold law that says don't judge your insides against other people's outsides. But I have a poll, and this poll is a little shocking, and we're just gonna do exercise together. This is perception versus reality. And so they took 10,000 people and they polled them from it's a blind survey. So it's all different socioeconomic levels. And they said, what income do you think Americans actually make? Right. And what percentage of Americans make over a certain amount? So let's draw this out. So let's play a game. John, I'm going to use you as my guinea pig.
All right, perfect.
What percentage of Americans do you believe this is household income, right? This is all the income earners in the household. What percentage of oops, I drew 50%. I meant 50,000. What percentage of Americans household income is $50,000 or greater? And everybody can play along with me. What do you think? Just throw
greater than 50,000?
Yeah, throw it up in the chat. What percentage?
All right, guys, let's see what you got. Vicky probably knows because she's been to this with you, and she's nodding her head. Yep. And you know what, Vicky? I was going to go higher than that. My answer was 30.
Okay, John says 30.
So yeah, we got Katie says 45, Vicky says 12, Julia says 20.
Okay, all right. So John said 30. The perception of these 10,000 people polled is they believed 50% of American households make 50,000 or more. The reality is 63%. Isn't that crazy? So we're all over the map with our guesses, but the reality is 63% of American households make more than $50,000 a year. But wait, there's more. Let's go to 100,000, John. What percentage of American households make more than $100,000 a year?
Now I got to go south of the midway point. So I'm going to go with the opposite of that. I'm going to go with 30%.
30% is John's guess. Anybody else? We'll 22.
We got a 30. We got a 22.
Okay, so the people polled, the perception was 38%. Why do I keep missing these up? 38%. The reality is 35% of American households earn greater than $100,000 a year. Now you're in Marco Island.
1/3 of the company makes less than of the country makes less than 50. 1/3 makes between 50 and 100, and 1/3 makes over 100.
So 50% makes less than 50,000. Half of Americans make, right, or 63%, right? 63%. So 2/3 make over, yes, you said it right. 1/3 make less than 50,000. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm confusing myself now. Now, what about 500,000? 500,000, John. Okay. What percentage of Americans actually make over 500,000? This is where it gets really interesting.
7.
John says 7.
And we've got an 8, a 1, and a 6 in the chat.
Ooh, who guessed 1?
That would be Cameron.
Cameron. All right. Now I'm going to pick on Cameron. So the perception of these 10,000 people polled is they guessed 26%. Now let me stop right there. this is one of the challenges we face as a society is we tend to think all the other people make the money. I don't make the money. So we constantly compare ourselves and think they must have it better than us. Here's the reality. It's 1%.
Wow. Cameron's been studying.
It's 1%.
Good job,
Cameron. Now let's go to 1 million. Now this kind of gives it away. If you know only 1% make over 500,000, it kind of gives it away. But I will tell you the perception, and when these people are polled, was 20%. They guessed 20%. So no wonder we have a spending problem, an all-time record high of credit cards and mortgage debt and student loan debt, etc., is because we think 1 in 5 people make over $1 million a year. And the reality is it's less than 1/10 of 1% make over $1 million a year. Less than 1 person per 1,000. The average American has 200 people in their sphere of influence, right? So most people don't know anybody who makes over $1 million a year. It's crazy. So when people polled say 1 in 5 people make over $1 million a year, you can see how the reality, they're going, everybody else has it better than me. And so what happens? Well, we have this vicious cycle. So I see John driving a nice car as my neighbor, and I think, oh my gosh, he makes a lot more than I do. I better go buy a nice car. So I buy a nice car and I finance it and do all those things. And then I see John's got a nice watch, and so I have to have a nice watch. And then John looks at me and says, wow, Mark's got a nice car, a nice watch. I better go get a nicer car, a nicer watch. And before you know it, we are bankrupt and over our heads in debt and doing everything we can to service it. So if there's any, the other analogy I would give you is, it's one of my favorite analogies, but if you think about a rubber band, and I was joking with Rebecca this morning, I don't know what happened to all the rubber bands. We used to use rubber bands all the time. I haven't seen a rubber band in a long time. Do we still use rubber bands? When was the last time anybody used a rubber band? I'm just curious. Anybody today? You got one on your wrist? Oh, perfect. I love it. All right. So, oh, you used one today. Cool. Oh, in your hair. Oh, okay. Cool. You use an actual rubber band or you use a scrunchie? My wife uses the little scrunchie. Anyway, so you think about a brand new rubber band. It's got the new rubber smell, right? And if you slowly just pull on that rubber band, you can stretch it out. And over time, you're shocked at how far you can stretch it without it breaking. However, if you took a brand new rubber band and you just did this with it, it would break right away, right? So your wealth building is exactly the same way. And what I've observed is people who grew up in poverty, if they make it out of poverty, they tend to have a lot more wealth than people who grow up middle class. So where you start in life matters. There's a great book by Morgan Housel called Psychology of Money. And one of his chapters is Nobody is Crazy. Depending on the era you grew up in and the circumstances you grew up in, you have a viewpoint of money. And the challenge I think we're seeing in that study is a lot of our generations have grown up now in social media sphere, and they believe everybody they see on social media makes $1 million a year. They believe everybody they see on TV. You know, the average actor you see in a movie, the average actor, take out the Keanu Reeves of the world, the average actor in Hollywood that you see on movies makes $26,000 a year. So we have to, this is why this information is so important is we gotta get real and get right. Just steal a page out of Gary's book, right? But if you think everybody around you is making so much more than you, you are destined to not build wealth at the level that you could. So just having this, like I could care less about the clothes that I wear. I'm wearing free golf pants that the golf guy gave me because they happen to be my size. Like I don't. It's weird, but I'm still very frugal. I've gamified this. My goal is to live on less than 10% of my income. I'm almost there. And it's not that by the way, I have a budget of $20,000 a month. So I'm just sharing with you that I live great. I have more than I ever dreamed I would. I have an amazing wife. She's an amazing cook. We eat home a lot. But I don't have to impress you with my wealth. And that way I can give money away. We give a lot of money to charity, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Right. So the challenge is we try and keep up with the Joneses. We have this perception that Joneses are more well off than we are, and it's just not true. So that's the one thing that's keeping us from being wealthy.
Love that. And that is such an amazing poll that you just shared with us. I mean, we're all around people that we perceive as wealthy, and there's a difference between rich and wealthy.
Yes. Well, it's
And-
funny. I got to play golf with Gary for the first time. I've known him for a long time, and we got to finally, after mega camp, we went and played golf at his country club. And it's funny, Gary's frugal too. This is the funny thing about Gary is they needed an easement through his land for a drainage pipe or something. And so he negotiated with them to give him a membership to this exclusive golf course. And so we got to play it. It was awesome. And Gary was like, you ought to join here. And I said, Gary, you don't pay me enough money to join here. This is really expensive, but it was a super big treat. But you know, it's one of the things that people don't really understand. I'm around obviously Gary, who I don't even know what his net worth is, but it's a lot. And you would never know it hanging out with him. And my experience has been most wealthy people are the one. There was an old joke. I got into CrossFit a little bit, and the running joke in CrossFit was, how do you know if somebody's in CrossFit? They'll tell you. And the challenge is wealth works the opposite. Most people that are wealthy, you would never know it, and they don't talk about it, and they don't have to impress you, right? It's that age old thing. And most people that you see driving the fancy cars with the fancy watches are not wealthy. So you just got to kind of understand that and have that basis of knowledge. So, and be okay with the fact that other people are going to look like they have more net worth than you do. That's fine.
Awesome. So if somebody wants to start their journey, what's the first, and I've heard the live off of 10% of your active income.
Yeah.
And Adrian has gotten there. So we know it's possible.
Yeah.
What's the first step?
Yeah. The very first step is free, and it's study. It's free to study wealth building. And it doesn't matter what your net worth is. By the way, wealth is not complicated. In fact, the more complicated it's made, the less likely the person teaching knows what they're talking about, because building big wealth is very simple. I'll give you a couple examples. Gary and I were having this conversation many years ago, and we were talking about success in business. And I don't know if you know this, John, but I had the pleasure. I was the #1 team leader in the company. And I got the pleasure of opening for Gary on his One Thing tour. And so that was a really fun, exciting thing. And this is probably 12, 13 years ago. And I'll never forget the conversation we had on the way to the airport. It was awesome. And so I had another conversation like that several years ago where I remembered every word. And we were talking about success in business. And he said, Mark, and this is probably 5 years ago, so I'm 45 years old at the time. He said, Mark, how many businesses have you run in your life and built? And I said, oh my gosh. And I thought, this is a moment to humble brag a little bit. And I said, I think I'm somewhere around 50, Gary. Like I've had 50 companies. I still have a lot of those today, and market centers, real estate teams, title companies, all the fun things. And he said, that's fascinating. And he said, have you built the wealth you want to build? And I said, no, I'm nowhere near it. Like I have big goals and big plans. And he goes, that's interesting. And I said, oh, where's this going? And he goes, you know what I've done for 40 years? I said, what's that? And he said, I've worked on one thing. And I was like, wow. So he has literally worked on one thing for 40 years to have the net worth that he has. And I was searching for 50. And this is the #1 thing I see with agents right now, is they get caught with the shiny new thing and they stop doing the one thing that made them a top agent. And I see it all over the place. I see it and this whole industry has gotten a little wonky over the last several years. And I jokingly tell people it's like a Dave Chappelle skit. It's who wants to buy a watch? Who wants some rev share? Who wants some stock? Who wants that, right? It's turned into this, I'll do anything I can do to avoid actually selling houses to make extra money. And the reality is, if you got really good at selling houses, you'd never worry about other things to make money. We have agents in this company, and this is mind-blowing. We have people who started as agents in this company from zero, who now have $1 billion net worth. What? We have 3 different agents I can name for you that just got hundreds of millions of dollars valuations for the business they built. And all they did was find a problem they wanted to solve for their own real estate business, and then were able to scale it because it turns out other people had the same problem. Yep. One of those is Tim Heil, who built a bridge lending company that just got a massive valuation. One was Ben Kinney, who built Place, and, built his own technology and had a massive, one of them's Craig Goodliff, who built Cyberbackers. He needed some VA help. So he got a VA from the Philippines. Now he has 3,500 VAs in his company. Like this is literally where entrepreneurs thrive. This is a place where you can go build, and they all did it doing one thing, was selling real estate. So, I have this conversation all the time, John. People will say, where's my opportunity? Where's my next opportunity? Well, your next opportunity is your current opportunity, because all of us can grow what we have. And I think about this, and if you know me, there's no way I got to number 67 in this industry by myself. I had a world-class team. I finally learned how to do recruit, select, train and consult, and that whole we now call it career visioning. But I finally got good at surrounding myself with really good people at what they did, and my business just took off. And I sold that business in 2008, ironically. And I look back at that now. If I'd have known there was going to be something called expansion, if I'd have known that there was other opportunities, I made a huge mistake. I could have taken that team where I sold 245 houses in 2008 to who knows where by now. I mean, we have teams selling 3, 4, 5, 10,000 houses a year, right? So I could have taken that much, much bigger, but I thought I'm number one in my market. There's nowhere else to go, that kind of thing. And I would just tell everybody, there's more out of the current business you have than there's going to be by starting something new. But what you see happen, and this is the industry we're in, right? It's come to our company and build a brokerage. Now, running a brokerage and running a real estate team are vastly different things. And so, and you find that out a little bit too late, or it's come over here and be start your own title company, or start your own mortgage company, or start your own inspection company, or start your own insurance company. And they're different things. And so I'm a big fan of ancillary businesses. I own a lot of them, and I want all my agents. I use them for my agents to build a moat around our market center. And so I have 35 partners in one of my market centers in a title company, for example, and they all make a great income from that title business. And I want them to do that, but I don't want them to take their eye off of the focus, which is building their own real estate business. I'm all about passive income, and my job is to wake up every day and figure out how to help my agents make more money. And so that's what I do. Yep.
Yeah, Mark, one of the things you told me in the past is that you really are nothing more than a team leader for a 180,000 agent team.
That's it.
And you obviously fit well with that role, having been in that for 17 years before this. Mm-hmm. So let's open it up. There's got to be some questions. I know that, I don't know, I'm not going to call anyone out, but I know I've had conversations with a few people on here that I know there's some specific questions out there. So who's got a question for Mark at this point? Anything, whether it's real estate, throw it out there. Vicky, you just unmuted yourself. I saw that.
I'll take it. Thank you, Mark, for taking the time to spend with us this afternoon. I'm a follower of your, Wealth 2.0 on Friday mornings. I don't necessarily see it live, but I do see it sometimes through the weekend. I'm also a KW Wealth Mastermind member. So,
hey.
my husband and I are focused on the passive income right now.
Yep.
And of course I know about, KW 401k and buying real estate, of course, as a passive income. So what is your favorite passive income other than those two?
So here's how I look at passive income. And for the argument for this conversation, Vicky, I kind of build this. Well, I might have this on my screen. John, can I share my screen? Actually, I don't have it. Kate, you might have it. My XY axis. This is why I always ask Kate to be. Kate, are you there? Kate? All right. So I tend to look at all of my investments as how much money do they make? And then how much BS do I have to deal with? Bologna sandwiches, right? And so when I think of passive income, most people conflate passive with portfolio income. I have never owned a piece of real estate that was passive. And I've owned a lot of real estate, but there's always been some work to do. And so if you own REITs, that would be a way to own real estate in a passive way. But understand, the more passive the income, the lower the rate of return on average. So my favorite passive income is the one that is the highest on the makes money chart and the lowest on the bologna sandwich chart. So anything over here would be an awesome thing. I have in my stock portfolio, I make about 7% right now just in dividends. That's not the value of the stock, but I'm making about 7% on my dividend yielding stocks because I've been in them a long time and because they've grown to that level, right? And I was fortunate enough in the early days to enter in. Oh, look, there it is. So I was fortunate enough to enter into some dividend yielding stocks. But here's how I think about this. And I've got my XY axis flipped here. But so you look at the bottom, these are actual investments I pulled out of my own portfolio to make an example for one of our wealth building classes. And I look at profit share, where my family and I, my wife and I make about $5,000 a month. That is the most passive thing ever. And because I'm passionate about this company changes lives. So I'm going to tell everybody I know about it. By the way, I'm annoying to go to dinner with because if the server has any kind of personality, I'm talking to them about real estate and K-score. But that's about $5,000 a month for profit share. And I do nothing other than talk about the company that I love. Then, I've got in my index fund a little more than 10,000 a month coming in from my dividends. So that has built up over time. And again, the value of the stock has risen, but also the dividend yield each year has risen. And so that is completely passive. I do nothing. I actually just look at that once a week on Sundays. And and I just keep reinvesting it and keep growing it and all those things. But that's about $10,000 a month. And that's just dividends. Then I have a single family property. I make $1,200 a month on it. It's very low lift. I have a property manager that manages it all, and I don't have debt, so I don't owe anything on it, so I don't worry about it. But I still have to check in on it from time to time. I still have a little bit of work, so the time takes a little more time. Then I get into multifamily. There's a lot more time in that and not a lot more money. But this is a chart I use personally to figure out how to divest out of things that aren't working the way I thought they would. The apartments that I own were very expensive. I make $3,000 a month for less than $3,000, $2,200 a month from them. And I've got a lot of capital locked up in those apartments, and they are a pain in my backside. And so I am currently selling those apartments at lower than market rate because I'm just tired of the hassle. Right. And so then I built in here like W-2 work and self-employed. You can make a lot more money being a real estate agent than any of these things, but you spend all your time doing it. So when I look at this chart, what my goal is to get every single investment I have to work to the right and to get lower on my time, if you think of it that way. Does that make sense? So Vicky, when you talk about my favorites, it's not necessarily the ones that make the most amount of money. It's the one that is the least amount of hassle that I have to pay the least amount of attention to, because I also have been burned in the past by just giving money to a financial advisor and hoping it worked out for the best. So I've taken complete control. In fact, I fired maybe a dozen financial advisors in my life and finally found someone who was 23 years old when my wife and I met her. And she said, she was very kind, just out of college, and we met at a Keller Williams function, and I said, "What do you do?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm a personal finance advisor," and she was very, very nice. And I said, "Great, are you coachable?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, if you'll do exactly what I tell you to do, I'll invest with you." And she said, "Okay." And she's had like several managers tell her, "No, you need to tell Mark to do this and this." And she's like, "I'm not telling Mark to do anything because he'll pull all his money out of this firm." I've even talked to them about it. And she does exactly what I asked her to do. And it's worked out brilliantly. It's funny, but one year they sent me a note. I was the highest earning overall in my portfolio of any client they had in the firm. And I thought, isn't that interesting? And I'm not bragging, but I just have a very fundamental, simple way. I'm not playing the market. I'm not timing anything. I just put money in every single month in dollar cost average. And lo and behold, I made 14% that year in a market that was pretty tough. And so they were all, so that's my long answer to your short question.
So you actually started a plan and you stuck to it.
Yep.
Wow, what a concept.
It's super simple. Like, Warren Buffett just talked about this on a video that I saw. And he was asked, what if you could start all over today, how would you build your wealth again? He goes, "Well, I would get into an index fund. I would put money in every single week or every single month, and I would never look at it. And I'd wake up 70 years later and I'd be just as rich as I am today." And mathematically, that's almost true. If you study Warren Buffett's wealth, what you realize, his wealth looks like this. These are the years of his life. So all of this came from time. And he's now 90 something years old. But he's tripled his net worth in like the last 5 years or something, because that's what happens with money over time. So yeah, super simple. Doesn't need to be more sophisticated than that. You don't need to talk about bonds versus equities versus all those things. This idea, and this is something that drives me crazy, Vicky, is our whole society teaches us that this should be your life. You should earn money, then retire, and you should downsize and live like a pauper. Well, that's no fun. But this is how investment managers look at your money too. They go, well, we're going to be risky in the early days because there's time to recover. But when you're ready to retire, we're going to put all your money in CDs and bonds. No, I want my life to look like this, right? I want my money to keep growing exponentially. Now, if you live on all of your returns, that won't happen. So what's happened with me personally is the things I started investing in 20 years ago now pay all of my personal expenses.
That's awesome. Love that.
Who else?
So, Mark, is it?
Yep, it's Jeff's turn.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mark,
Hey,
just want to express my appreciation of what a great leader you are. You're one of us, and you're doing a terrific job. I'd like to get your insight on these NAR lawsuits that are coming up. We got one starting in November, one in February. What do you think the impact on the industry is going to be?
all right, I'll tell you what I can tell you. The first one starts October 16th in Kansas City, and I'm from Kansas City, so I'm excited. I'll show you. This is fun. Obviously, I can't tell you a lot, but this is my testimony. I'm one of 4 of the witnesses, and I will tell you that what I can tell you is I have seen nothing that makes me believe that any of the things we've been accused of are even remotely true. And so you would have to believe that somewhere in some dark, dingy steak restaurant in Omaha, Nebraska, myself and a bunch of other leaders of real estate companies get together and we go, here's how we're going to fix the entire industry. And I will tell you, I am on record for 20 years saying things like, we will never tell you what commission to charge. We will share with you business data. We'll use numbers as examples, but we will never collude to charge a certain commission. And so they have an uphill battle to prove that we're all in cahoots and NAR is telling us what to charge and all these fantastical things. But there's always risk in anything like this. And so the thing that bothers me about it, and this is all public record and in the press and everything else, is that this feeds into Zillow's wishes. You know, Zillow would like for there to be less of us pesky realtors and for more of the money to go to them. And the reality is, I believe a realtor is a fiduciary that helps the clients, and clients are better off using a professional realtor than going it alone. So from that perspective, yes, the first one's in October, then we have November, and then we have Chicago, we have Boston, we have a couple more. I don't know that this is anything more than mass tort at its worst. I honestly, I don't know. So is there a chance that buyer's agency goes away someday? Is there a chance? There's a chance anything can happen. I still believe that the best thing for the consumer and the invisible hand, which is whatever commission a certain agent charges in a certain market is, won't go away. See how I dodged all that because you got all your otter boxes on here and you're recording stuff. You know that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark, listen, that was a great answer, and I'll tell you, it's one of those things that really where this whole lawsuit really annoys me, because I'm sitting here. I was, I think, the 3rd accredited buyer's rep in Massachusetts when that designation came out. And is a big champion of that because buyers need representation. Otherwise, it was old caveat emptor going way back, right?
Yeah.
This lawsuit really has the potential of turning it completely around back into the dark ages of real estate.
Yeah, I don't know how it ever goes through, but the idea that a consumer would be better off to walk into a listing agent's listing and have no representation and negotiate on their own behalf is crazy to me. And the craziest part about it is the people bringing it are all lawyers. And so my first rebuttal is, would you, if I was on trial for something, I would certainly wouldn't represent myself. You wouldn't advise me to do that, would you, counselor? This is silly. And so you have to believe the other thing that people don't realize. Here's the other piece is the market downturn doesn't hurt our case in this conversation, because one of the arguments is that we make way too much money. Well, when you understand that the average realtor sells 3 houses a year, then it's hard to argue. And the other thing is people don't understand we're actually business owners. All they do is 6% math, and they go, look, the average sales price now is 400,000 times 6%. You're making 24,000. That's ridiculous. Nobody deserves to make 24,000, right? And the reality is, I'm going to market this house to the people who most likely have buyers, which are other agents. I'm going to split my fee with them. We both have brokerage costs. We have gas money. We have signs. We have marketing. We build a database. We're running a business. Our profit margins, if they're 40%, which is what we teach, you realize what you have to do to net a great living in this business. Like, you have to sell a lot of houses. So it's just a misunderstanding. And this idea that technology somehow should make it easier or less expensive for consumers. This is a fascinating point. I'm like, who do you think pays the technology companies? It's realtors. And so we have the data of how much money we paid to Zillow's Keller Williams agents last year. And it's shocking. It's mind blowing.
Mark, I think your point is very well taken, and you should say to a lawyer, not that you shouldn't represent yourself, but should we just have one lawyer for both sides and they represent both sides? That's what we're talking about. Not me representing myself, but the defendant and, both having the same lawyer, because, hey, it costs less, right? Maybe.
Right. It's so good. I mean, it's like a Jim Carrey movie, right? It's like, did you on the night of 2010? No, I did. Did you? Right. It's crazy. It's so nuts.
Awesome. All right, Mark, we want to be respectful of your time. Do you have time for
No,
one more question?
I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave.
I know. Listen, every single time we talk, it goes over.
Come on. I know. I do have, I have a CV thing after this, so I'm excited about potentially hiring a new person. Go ahead, Cameron.
Awesome. Cameron.
I wanted to ask you something about one of the bold laws that always repeats itself in my mind is clarity is power. And sometimes I feel like maybe like others probably sometimes struggle to get clarity on maybe their one thing or maybe so I was just wondering what clarity means to you. Maybe that's my question.
Yeah, it's
clarity is power means to you.
It's blocking out the noise. And so what's funny is I look back at all the bold laws have been universal in our lives, our entire lives, whether we recognize them in the moment or not. But when I played baseball in college, one of the things I wrote underneath the bill of my cap, which I wore under my helmet, was hard, not far. And my entire focus, I forget what baseball movie, it's a Kevin Costner movie where he's like, clear the mechanism. It might be Bull Durham. I don't know which one it is, but he's like, clear the mechanism. And he's trying to block out all the noise and the fans and everything. And all he's focused on is where he wants a pitch and what he's going to do when he gets that pitch, right? And so I had hard, not far written on the bill of my cap. And that meant hit the ball hard. Don't worry about how far you hit. Don't try and hit a home run. Just try and square it up and hit it as hard as you can. And that was always my approach at the plate. And so as I thought about these bold laws later, clarity is power is something that I used in college athletics. It was block out everything around me and focus on the most important thing right in front of me. And if I've ever gotten good at anything, Cameron, it's be where I'm at. Because, and this is, if you've ever spent time with me, I am 100% focused on this conversation and I'm not distracted. By the way, there's 1,000 things going on right now. I got stuff happening in my inbox. I'm sure my phone that you can't see is always, turned over and face down on my desk in front of me. So I'm not distracted by the text messages. I'm not looking at my watch constantly going, oh my gosh, John took me long again, right? I'm 100% focused on what's right in front of me. And together, I think we can help each other get more focused. And you know what it's like when you're in a conversation with somebody and people are distracted all over the place and all that good stuff. And I work with Jason Abrams, so from time to time it's easy to get distracted. Oh, look, there he is right now.
You working on something?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
What's up,
there's
Jason?
people here. Hey, gang.
What's going on,
Look
bud?
at this. You got Julia on your call. You realize you
So-
have one of the best KW agents around.
Let's ask Jason this question. So how did in the madness that is
Thanks,
your job,
Jason. You're the
My
best.
pleasure.
the madness that is your job and all the things you touch in a day, how do you stay focused on the one thing most important to you?
I ignore everything else. And I know that sounds so crazy, but a lot of emails go unanswered and I feel terrible about all those things. And some phone calls get missed and I feel terrible about those things. But literally, if the few things that I'm supposed to do don't get done, everything is worse.
And I know this is true because Jason was playing golf with us. The only time we played golf with Gary and Jason was there.
The only time.
The only time I played with
Yeah,
Gary.
it's similar.
Funny. And so, but neither of us, we rode in the same cart together and neither of us were looking at our phones. We weren't on the phone.
Well, because he specifically told us not to look at our phone.
Well, that's
So there was
true
that too.
but-
I don't want
but focus on where you are.
He's very specific when you play golf with him. it turns out.
You're a great help. Thanks.
Yeah.
Go away. All right.
Yeah. So, Mark, how do you ignore that distraction?
You know,
Kick them out.
here's the thing. I have the best partners on the planet, and Jason's he claims he's a lot younger, but he's like my little brother, and so he's not that much younger. He's not a millennial. He's full of it.
Awesome. And Cameron, that was a great question, by the way.
It was a great question.
Anything
that
else,
it?
guys?
That's
Come
it?
on.
Yeah, we need
All right.
Thank
I
you, Mark.
appreciate
Good
you. I'm
to see you
coming
again.
Nice to see you.
Digitally this time.
I'm coming down. I'm going to jump on Michael's boat. That's my plan.
Awesome.
Have a
Mark,
great weekend, everybody.
Oh,
Appreciate
you
you.
too.
buddy. Thank you.
Not in a weird way, but I love all of you. See you. Bye.
All right. We'll see you, bud.